When we would discuss the Mughal Empire, and we see that there was interest in the trade with the Indian Ocean, the Mughals ruled over predominantly Hindu, polytheistic religious people. And when Akbar was in power, at least Christianity, Judaism, or any other religion would have been tolerated. And also, the Mughals were out of the European sphere. It was the Europeans who had to go out of their way to be in contact with them. With the Ottoman Empire, as I talked about the siege of Vienna, this was a very different matter. The Ottoman Empire was very much at the doorsteps of Europe and in the minds of every European. Now, what was unique about the Ottoman Empire? And the Ottoman Empire, just to clarify, right, I have up here, the center of its rule was based in what is now Turkey. Okay, this is the Turkish Empire. The majority, the rulers were Sunni, and I went over the issue of Sunni and Shiite Islam in my last class. Just for those of you that don't know, the majority of Muslims to this day are Sunni. And there was a debate about who had the right to rule the Islamic community after the Prophet Muhammad died. The Shiites are those who believed that those that were related to the Prophet, that the household of the Prophet were the rightful rulers, which was not the way that the Sunnis saw it. And then the Shiites over time would develop a very different set of ideas about Islam. It's a little bit too elaborate to explain now. If that really is something that you're curious about, the exact differences, please send me an email, a question, and I can go on for a very long time about the differences. So, in one way you could look at it is, let's say, Catholic and Protestant Christianity. Both would consider themselves Muslim, just like a Catholic and a Protestant says they're Christian, but they have major differences and at times war with each other, and other times are at peace. Okay, so the Ottoman Empire also had the concept of two abodes, that there was Dar al-Islam and Dar al-Harb. Dar al-Islam, the House of Islam, would be nations under Islamic rule, and those that were not were subject to war, the House of War. This was something that was developed by jurists. This wasn't necessarily explicitly in the Quran, but it was a concept that came about, and maybe sort of like manifest destiny in the Christian Western world. This was a multi-ethnic empire, just like the Mughal rulers, except that you would be shocked perhaps that even though there was this sort of view of hostility towards the West, that the Ottoman Empire wanted to dominate Christian lands, they did not purge the empires of Christians and Jews. Christians and Jews were considered dhimmi peoples, are protected. With modern standards, this would be still considered discriminatory. But in the Catholic empires and in the Protestant empires, you didn't have a tolerance of Turkish or Muslim existence, and Jews were tolerated but often very much persecuted, and sometimes they were expelled from Christian lands. In the case of the Ottoman Empire, if you were Jewish or Christian, you had a certain tax that you had to pay, but other than that, you could still worship. You had your own courts. You could divorce through Jewish or Christian courts. And so, for example, in Islam, you officially cannot drink alcohol. For the Eucharist, for Christians, you use wine and the bread, right? And Judaism also has certain holidays that use wine. Taverns were allowed in Jewish and Christian quarters, but not in Islamic. And sometimes Christians and Jews could move up within Turkish Islamic society. You had another unique aspect of the Ottoman Empire, which was the Devshirme system, the Janissary Corps. And it's slavery of a most bizarre type. They would kidnap Christian children from the Baltic region of the empire, force them to be Muslim, and then make them the elites of the Ottoman court. Rather, the Janissaries, in case, were the elite fighters. So they were like slaves that were kidnapped and yet living the most wealthy and prestigious life compared to so many other people in the empire. It is slavery. It was tragic, but it's also, I don't know, it's a different type of situation that you just don't see in any other place at this point in history, and not very often in many other cultures. But the Devshirme system, that's what it was. Kidnapping kids, forcing them to become Muslim, and then making them elites. The idea was that this would be a loyal class strictly to the Sultan. Okay. Again, if you got more questions on that, please hit me up. But as European power started to develop, remember I mentioned that the Siege of Vienna is where Ottoman Empire stopped, and their power began to decline. Westernization seemed to be the answer to the Ottoman Empire in order to become stronger. The Ottoman Empire is going to start declining around this time, but see, if you see here, it lasts till 1922, so that's a long time. The Ottoman Empire had very famous rulers, Suleiman the Magnificent. I'm just going to skip over that. If you're interested, you can look more up on him. Again, I'm showing you pictures of Jews and Christians existing within the Ottoman Empire peacefully, actually. And in the next lecture, I'm going to actually talk about the next Islamic power and the last of this section, which is Safavid Persia or Iran. And I'll hopefully tie it all in together at the end for you, okay?